Yo, 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 what is going on, IK fam? BN, we are back again today for another Dope Sauce Infinity Kingdom video. Really excited because your boy Mr. Kingdom Builder is going to be talking about what I thought was a great conversation piece to start the morning for me. And this was posted on the official Infinity Kingdom Discord. In the general EN chat, as you can see here. And Holy Greedy, who had made this post here a little while ago, right? He had said, did you seriously rate servers based on king mails and alliance declaration? So, right, what is he even talking about? What is going to be the topic of this video? So we're going to really touch on the importance of having a good understanding about what factors into a server and or a kingdom when it comes to you as a player, a group of players, a full alliance, multiple alliances that are looking to migrate or find a server to migrate to, right? And then we'll talk a little bit about some of those topics, and then also the importance of playing in servers or kingdoms across Kingdom Builder games that have had successful stints throughout KVKs and SVSs where you as a player truly understood how they were successful, right? Because, and I say this because a lot of times I come across players who have played in these servers or kingdoms, but they've really done it more so from like a member standpoint, right? Or they've done it even if from an officer standpoint, or even if you've been a leader of an alliance, but your alliance didn't contribute or really participate, right? How much did you engage? How much did you understand for why these servers and kingdoms were successful in the first place? So I'll touch a little bit on that as well. But to focus back here, right, what Greedy is talking about is a later post I made, right, which kind of shares and talks about what our Infinity Kingdom kind of everything migration spreadsheet is. And shout out to my buddy Pip from S79 who did kind of pimp out the spreadsheet for me, so we can use it to collect good overview data, right? And what this spreadsheet is just that. It is a snapshot of overview information that will allow for you as a player, a group of players, an alliance, multiple alliances, to look at this and figure out which servers you want to contact to then get more information, right? Now, we do provide a good amount of information, but this is not meant to be an extremely detailed, a full audit, so to speak, of what we would do on a server or a kingdom, right? This is meant to give you a starting point on general information and then a rep to contact for servers you are interested in speaking to someone on possibly migrating there. So as you can see, right, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We have 12 columns. Excuse me, 11. I shouldn't count the last update. Right, we have 11 columns that we are using to go off of how we are giving you our overview of servers. Now, the important part here, as we scroll back up, right, or even before that, you'll see here that I actually wrote back to Greedy with what I thought was a really good explanation on why we capture the data that we do and how it factors into a server's overall health, morale, and general preparedness, right, / organizational structure. Because all of these things are going to factor into which servers are going to have a higher chance, an advantage, if you will, at being that much more prepared and potentially successful when they go into server versus server after it's released in the new update, right? So the question here is, sorry, as I'm scrolling back up, right, is did you seriously rate servers based on king mails and alliance declarations, right? So when you say did you seriously rate servers based on, right, that's focusing on just those two things. It doesn't mention anything else, right? So we would basically discern from this that these are the two things that this person thinks we're rating servers on, which, keep in mind, we never gave an overall rating, as I actually steered away from that for obvious reasons. And instead, we opted to give more of a, again, as I was calling it, a snapshot overview, kind of the first stop shop for people to go and look at. In addition, right, these are 2 columns or 2 airfields out of the 11 that we cover. I think a better way to have worded this question would have been, out of the 11 fields, right? Why would you include King's Mail or Alliance Declaration? That would have been a better question, right? Instead of kind of having this loaded question that Greedy's asking where he makes it seem like these two fields are completely pointless to use for an overall rating. Given the way that the question was worded, right, and some of the underlying tones in it, that you can pretty much just gather, right, from that along with the GIF that was posted after, is this player does not think that Kingdom Declarations or server mails have any effect, right, on a server at all, right? And even for them, winning or having any advantages, right, in SVS, which, let me see here if we can later show that, which is, so, right, so here you go, right, where it says building a successful server is not by sending boring King's mails and putting info, which should be in an alliance mail. Okay, so, right, the one thing I would say is I think that kind of shows where we're going. And again, not to call out Greedy, but I do want to use Greedy as an example because this is something that other players feel as well. And this is a great opportunity for me to really explain and go into detail on why it is so important that King's Mail / server mails cannot be undervalued, along with a declaration as well. Right, so let's break down first off, where are you even going to see a declaration? Okay, so let's take a look here and show you where you're going to see a declaration and where you're going to see server mail. So these come from the World Heart, right? And let's look at World Heart. Now, I don't think these ones are active yet, but you can see here, right, that someone is currently king, but they just haven't set these yet. Now, the declaration is what you are going to see publicly, visually, from the global server list. And how you get there is by going here. You click on this map icon between the magnifying glass and the mail right above the chat box, and then you go bottom right corner, you click on the globe, and this brings you to the overall server. Now, I wish you could zoom out here a little bit. That would be the next thing I'd love for them to be able to do here, is zoom this out, maybe eventually do something like blocks so you can just more easily navigate. But then what you'll do is you'll click on a server, and you'll see where it says here, Kingdom Declaration. I click on that, and it gives me information on that server. And this is really important because if you are just looking, like, let's say you're not on the Infinity Kingdom Discord, let's say you don't use Discord, right, which there's a good amount of people that do, where do you go? Where is your first stop to go and get information on where you would want to migrate out or migrate to if you're looking to migrate out? It is going to be here. Right? And the information that you are going to try and get on where you would want to migrate is here in the Kingdom Declaration. So what that means is that the Kingdom Declaration is your first stop shop and really the most important thing that you need to have put together in a well-formatted way that is going to allow for traffic and new activity, new blood to come into your server, right? It is vastly important that you have a quality recruiting and a migration team set up to bring in players. I will give you a hard example here, right, which will further show how and why this is so important to do. And on just one of two of these, we'll later get to server and King's Mail in a moment. So I played, some of you may know, right, I talk about this often, right, I played Rise of Kingdoms for a very long time as arguably my kind of main kingdom builder prior to finding and then falling in love, more so now with Infinity Kingdom, along with playing other kingdom builders as well from what you've heard me talk about, but I'm just going to focus on Rock as an example for now. So I played in a server that was 1196. Some of you who've played Rock, you may know this as LG's or Legends Gaming server for the time that they were there. An extremely well-successful server, right, at their peak, they were number 4 Imperium, which means they were the top 4, the number 4 strongest kingdom in the game. This lasted for about 1.5, 2 years, and they had gone on to win multiple successful KVKs. For the time that I was there, I think they had only lost one, again, albeit not knowing what their current record is at the moment. But the reason I say this is because at a point in 1196, between KVKs, I want to say this was maybe between KVK, after KVK 3, where they started getting a little bit low on activity. Players in some alliances were migrating out, and they just needed new blood. So for myself, right, being a part of one of the areas that I was involved in, which was the recruiting department, which I eventually worked my way up to take over lead of the recruiting department, I was then able to bring in, right, with help from others, but mainly I was able to bring in the bulk and majority of people in between these KVKs at a 25 mil cap, right, which is what the Imperium Kingdom's migration cap was previously set at before they bumped it up to 35. Not sure if they bumped it up more since then, but at the time when it was at 25, right, I was able to bring in over $500,000 worth of power that was spread out between about 100 people from just one group. Right. Overall, in that season, I think we probably brought in almost 1 billion power, if not a little more than 1 billion, that we were able to bring in throughout the entire recruiting season between KVKs, which for an Imperium Kingdom, right, when you're bringing in people at that cap or below, that is extremely hard to do, to sell them on coming to an older server in which they are going to be weaker than what the median average player power is. Right, for the active players that participate, specifically in SVS as well, in those kingdoms. And so this is, and because we did this, we were able to fill out one alliance, and then we were over time able to provide 2 other shells to incoming groups that came in, and now those groups factored into 1196's play going into KVK4 and then KVK5, and they actually contributed in that KVK/SVS. This is why it is extremely important on how you might think this is just a declaration mail. No. It is not just a declaration mail. This is an investment into the future of your server/kingdom's longevity. And when you and this just goes for anyone in general, right? When you brush off the importance of these individual pieces and you don't see them for what they really are in the long term, right? A year, 2 years down the road, right? You got to Bobby Fischer this and think 30 steps ahead, not just at the most at the next step or the next play, right? You got to think long term. And these things have such a big impact for how a server's health, morale, and its just general longevity is going to play out over a period of time. And that is why having a declaration board is so important if you want to take the first best step you can to providing information that you need to. And I'll even give you an example, right? This is what our declaration board in S79 is going to be. Right, that we have. Our first that we're planning to put in for our second COR. Our first COR was mainly just us getting out as many mails as we could that were laying the foundation and the groundwork. But I'll show you now, this is what we were going to be sending, or excuse me, what we'll be putting in, right? It's kind of like an interested in migrating to, right? We provide some information here. We will eventually add, this is just like a first draft that you're seeing now, but for the most part, you can do this one of 2 ways. You can either say something like what we did, right, which is S79 Discord for overview and rules and rules and policies, which we specifically have a section on our Discord that people can come to, because again, right, your server Discord should be gated, and if it's gated, quote unquote, then you have a section that's like an overview page or a S79 rules page that players, when they come on the Discord, they can read information, because again, you can provide more information on Discord than you can in-game via the declaration mail, which you're limited to from having a hard character limit. And you can provide more information on Discord that people can get a better idea on what your server offers, what are the rules, what are the policies, right? What do you have put in place? And that is really the best way to do it. Now, yes, you can still provide a short, quick view if you want to list out 2 or 3 kind of major big rules of the server on your declaration mail. But for the most part, this just hopefully will give you a good idea on what you should be going off of when it comes to how you can set up your declaration mail. And we did even talk about this in a previous video where we just went around looking at Kingdom declaration mails from servers. So now, let's get to the second part of the topic here, which was talking about server mails. Right? Why do I think server mails are extremely important? Well, keep in mind, right, when you get a server mail sent out, and I'll just show you an example here if I can find one that was sent in a point-to-point-to-point. Let's see here if we can find one. Melina's Ambition, Kingdom's... Oh, gosh, I need to be able to find one. Notice. I don't want a notice. I want... Here we go. Right, okay, so here's an example, right, of a kingdom notice, right? You also get these for declaration and announcements, but notices really are what the server mails are for, right? Declarations should be more stagnant after a certain period. And you'll see here that in these mails, right, you're limited to 300 characters. If IK is watching, I've said this multiple times, please increase this, right? We need to increase this to 1,000 characters at minimum, and we need to update, right, or the hope is to update the King's Mail tools that allows for you to send a mail out like you would an Alliance mail, right? So it has a subject line, and then you can put the body of the message, and it needs to be increased to 1,000 characters. Please, that is one of the biggest things I would love to see, and it definitely needs to happen if we want to allow for servers a better chance at informing players, educating their player base, and if anything, just providing some type of information. Now, why do I say that? Because sending server mails reaches out to every single player that is on the server, and more specifically, that is still active, right? So why do we even put that down on our migration sheet for why we even factor that in to a server to a server's overview? Well, the reason why is because if, let's say, for example, you go into a server and you do not have an organized group going in, you don't have a jumper group going in or a group of alliances, how do you organize people, right? Do you think so? And another question is, do you think having players on in a voice call in real time when server versus server, or even before that Illusion Battlefield is going on, do you think you'll be able to do you think you'll have an advantage if you had 40 players on a voice call communicating and coordinating in real time versus the other team that didn't have anyone on a voice call? I mean, I would think so. Now, you can do that by, one, sending out a server mail and increasing the amount of people that join your Discord. Do you think that there would be an advantage for a server that is able to have 100 players on a voice call in real time going up against another server in SVS where the other server had no one on a voice call? I would say yes. Do you think that information can be better explained, whether it be with docs, video links, screenshots, things that you cannot send in-game? I would argue and say yes, they can. And this all goes back to why server mail or kingdom notices are extremely important, because this is your opportunity to educate, to inform, and to give your player base more of a reason to stay in your server. Right? Server mails, or King's mails, or excuse me, in this case, notices, right, factor into everything. They factor into why players will stay longer. Are you able to retain players longer? Are players going to consider leaving because they're not being informed? Are you able to give players good information and tips? All reasons why they would then feel more confident and therefore comfortable in participating and engaging in events, which again just factors right back around to you being able to have a healthier server. And so again, these types of server mails cannot go unnoticed, and they cannot go undervalued, right? These are just a few areas that these factor into, right? If you want to coordinate, if you want to organize, if you want to help merging efforts, if you want to bring more people into your server Discord, if you want to explain rules, right? You can't just rely on messaging leaders individually, on being able to rely on world chat or posting these in kingdom chat. Right? These are all things that are really important when it comes to how you personally view utilizing your kingdom notices, right? Again, this is something that I will say myself, I value this extremely high. And it is really important that my hope is extended to others as well. Because it is really important to see, as I mentioned before, all of the areas that are impacted by having good quality kingdom notices. And I'll even give you an example, right, as well, right? So we're not just sitting here giving you guys breadcrumbs, okay? So let me give you an example of a mail, right? And let me see if I can just take a quick screenshot, because I'm not sure how the conversion here is going to work. Okay, yeah. So this is, okay, yeah, so this might slightly work. It's going to be a little, okay, that's a little better. Okay, so let me show you real quick, and I'll give you a couple examples, right, of the types of server mails that you would want to hopefully send out. So it's not just me providing the constructive criticism. So, right, Ghost, who was our current king in 79, right, him and I were working on server mails, and he was helping send them out, right? So here's an example of some mails you would send out, right? One of the things we do, and you can see it's nicely formatted, one of the things we do on 79 that we've always done in projects that I've organized is we do town hall meetings. We do town hall meetings for every single player on the server. And we also provide a recorded video that I will post to my YouTube as essentially like an unlisted video. And then we provide a link for people to go and tune into that on our server for anyone that missed the meeting. But we always give every single player on our server the opportunity to tune in and come on to join our town halls, because we want to hear from everyone, right? And simplistically put, we go over like a state of affairs, and we kind of have a list and an outline that we do. We hear from leaders, we hear from officers, we have an open floor portion of the town halls that we do, which are specifically for any kind of general members, even just for any player that joins that's in the server. They can ask any question, they can get a clarification on things, they can provide feedback. We always try and have even a moment where we allow for every person that has joined the call to give some feedback or ask a question or provide a concern, so that way we can address it, or we can hopefully hear something nice, depending if it's praise, so to speak, or if it's a positive piece of feedback. But we always like to give everyone the opportunity. That's an example of what I think is a really good mail that you send out. Another example is we send out gift codes, right? And we list out all the gift codes. And again, we always like to list out that, just to keep in mind, some may not work. And that's mainly just because some of these do go back a pretty far time. But we always like to send out those in again, in a real-time manner, as far as once we get an updated list of those and new come in, right? So again, just two brief examples, but things that I can tell you out of looking at now up to, I think we're at, 28 or wherever I posted? 26, right? I've never seen a server that has posted anything. Or out of these 26 servers, I've never seen a server that has posted these types of mails before. Now, I have seen some within 26 that have posted like 1 or 2 off gift codes here or there, but nothing to the extent of where it covers kind of all of the active codes. And you can argue that can be subjective whether or not they have an active list of all current codes or not. But even just doing things like town halls, right? Sending educational and informative information, because all of these things make the players in those servers feel like they are a part of more than just their alliance, more than they're just a part of another cog in the wheel that is the server, right? Doing things like this allow for players to engage beyond just in-game and feel like they're actually a part of a community. And a lot of players, myself included, really enjoy the social aspect of games, and that is something that we like to provide. Even if you're someone who joins our server, you'll often find there almost is always someone in. There's almost always someone in a voice call or a voice channel, right outside of us doing multiple voice meetings throughout the week. Right, these are really important. And so anyways, without kind of going off too long on a tangent now, because we're almost at 25 minutes, I do hope that this video provided some clarification, because I do think it's important when you have players that will say things like that, right, where they're just coming from a standpoint of, right, they just don't know. Right, and I think when you have players that will ask questions like that really kind of give you that indication of, oh, I don't know, or I don't really understand, so I'm just going to make this comment, right, that doesn't really have a lot of weight to it. That is where I would just simply ask for anyone, again in general, right, that it's good to ask a question that is hopefully not a loaded question, but you're asking to really try to understand something, even if you feel like something is wrong, or you just don't feel that this is right based on your experience. It's still good to ask from a neutral tone and standpoint to then have a more of a quality conversation, instead of asking in a way in which this player did, and sometimes others do as well, where it's, no, you're wrong. Why would you include this in there? It makes no sense. That's not going to help anyone, right? Because that's all we're hearing when we read that. So that's it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I would love to know what you think, right? Do you agree with me on the importance of having a declaration set up and all the areas it affects, along with sending out good server mails to every player in your server? Do you not? Are you somewhere in between? Right? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. That is it for me. I am out. We will catch you guys next time.